The Committee on Natural Resources will now come to order. Will the Secretary please call roll?
Senator Flores. Senator Goycochea. Senator Hansen. Senator Bazina. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you so much. We absolutely have a quorum with all 5 members present. Just as a very brief housekeeping reminder, we do ask that you silence your phones and all electronic devices. And with that, we have a number of bills to go into work session today, and that's where we're going to get started. The committee will recall at our work session on April 4th, we voted to amend and do pass SB 269, which revises provisions relating to animal cruelty and is sponsored by Senator Orenshaw with 2 amendments. I would like to ask the committee to reconsider that action, and then during today's work session, we will instead consider SB 269 with only 1 amendment, that was proposed by Clark and Washoe counties. I will accept a motion to reconsider our previous action regarding SB 269. Thank you. We have a motion by Senator Goycochea. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by our Vice Chair. Thank you so much. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The motion carries, and with that, we will move on to today's work session. All right, let's go ahead and get started on several bills that the committee has already previously heard, and with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Keller.
Thank you, Chair Pizzina. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. The bills for the committee's consideration today are summarized in the work session document, which is available on Nellis and with hard copies in the back of the hearing room. The first bill for the committee's consideration is Senate Bill 88, sponsored by this committee on behalf of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources and heard by this committee on February 16th. Senate Bill 88 requires the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources to conduct a study during the 23-24 interim concerning state agencies that regulate natural resources. The study must include, without limitation, an examination of the composition, mission, and scope of such agencies, and must include the Board of Wildlife Commissioners, the Commission on Mineral Resources, the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, and the State Environmental Commission. The committee must submit a report of its findings and any recommendations for legislation relating to the study to the 83rd session of the Nevada Legislature, and there were no amendments proposed for this measure.
Thank you very much, Ms. Keller. Do we have any questions from the committee or any comments? Okay. All right. Seeing no questions, I will entertain a motion to do pass Senate Bill 88.
So moved.
Thank you so much. We do have a motion from our Vice Chair. Do we have a second? Second from Senator Flores. All right. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, like in the hearing, I am strongly opposed to this concept, not because I don't think we should study things, but because of the growing fear in the rural parts of the state of complete dominance on all these boards of the 2 big population centers of Clark and Washoe. One of these boards in particular I'm exceptionally familiar with was the creation of the 9-member State Wildlife Commission, and that was actually done on behalf of Cecil Freddy of Clark County. And at the time, it was a 7-member board, and it was switched to 9, and we made sure that it was geographically as well as population center-based. And by doing that, we ensured that, because these issues, all these committees that we're talking about here are absolutely critical to rural Nevada's economy. And that one, because the previous board was 7 members, and the way it was made up, at that time, Governor Miller had appointed, frankly, a bunch of political appointees. And because of that, there was a huge amount of controversy in rural Nevada on some of the decisions that were being made. So we came back to the legislature, and Chairman Claiborne at that time of this committee, actually in the Assembly, helped establish that, and we got 9 members, and it was all geographically based and had license requirements and stuff to ensure that people that serve on these types of committees actually have some background in them. And weren't just honestly political appointees. So I'm going to vote no because of the fear I have, frankly, that the geographical aspect of it will go away. For us as Nevadans especially, since we're one of the smallest states in the union, we get 2 United States senators, and that's based on a geographical proportionality as well. not just population, because if we based all United States decisions just based on population, we wouldn't have a voice in anything. So anyway, that's my concern. I want to make sure that as this goes forward, that there's a geographical as well as a population-based formula that is used for these committees that are exceptionally important to rural Nevada. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And I would remind everyone on the committee as well that the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources, which will hopefully be composed of some of the people sitting on this dais, will be a part of that study. Thank you so much, Senator. And Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe this is going to pass, but I am going to be a no vote today, but I do hope I am on the standing committee, and maybe we can get some direction as we move into it. But yeah, I would prefer that I'll be honest with you, maybe we took this up as a body rather than an interim study, and I'm concerned about that. It might get too slanted, but with that, I'll just voice my no vote, but do hope I'm on the committee in the end.
Thank you so much, Senators Gokachia and Hansen. With that, it is time to take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, please let it be noted that this motion carries with all in favor with the exceptions of Senator Hansen and Gokachia, and I will assign the floor statement to Vice Chair Scheibel. Are you okay with that? Great, Vice Chair Scheibel, wonderful. All right, that will move us into Senate Bill 159.
Senate Bill 159 was sponsored by Senator Hammond and was heard by this committee on April 4th. Senate Bill 159 authorizes the Director of the State Department of Agriculture to issue a provisional 90-day license as an applicator to engage in certain pest control activities under the direct supervision of a licensed applicator. After the hearing, a conceptual amendment, which is attached in the work session document, was proposed by Warren Hardy to delete the original bill and instead require the Department of Agriculture to consider regulations that will permit a newly hired pest control applicator or trainee to work for no less than 90 days in the field under the direct supervision of a licensed applicator while they study for and take the required pest control applicator licensure examination. The amendment provides that direct supervision means that a trainee has direct access to a licensed applicator physically, telephonically, or by some other means. The amendment also provides that during this 90-day period, the trainee may apply general use pesticides, but will not be permitted to apply any restricted use pesticides unless under the immediate supervision of a licensed applicator. And the amendment provides that immediate supervision means the supervisor shall be physically present at the time the trainee is performing his or her work. And finally, the amendment provides that the licensed applicator or the company that employs them will be responsible and liable for the actions of the trainee, and provides that in adopting the regulations, the department must consider certain federal and state laws and regulations and certain industry best practices.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, seeing no questions, I will take a motion. Thank you. We have a motion from Senator Gokachia, a second from Senator Hansen. Any discussion on the motion? All right, great. Seeing none, I would love to hear all in favor. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Let this, please let it be recorded that the motion is carried unanimously, and I will assign that floor statement to Senator Hammond. All right, thank you, everyone, and that will move us to SB 258, Ms. Keller. Thank you.
Senate Bill 258 is sponsored by Senator Orenshaw and was heard by this committee on March 30th. Senate Bill 258, as introduced, authorizes the state engineer to authorize the drilling of a conservation domestic well limited to a withdrawal of 0.5 acre-feet in any designated basin. The bill also authorizes the state engineer to grant an application for a temporary change of the place of diversion, manner of use, or place of use of water already appropriated for a period not to exceed 5 years, and provides certain notice requirements. After the hearing, a conceptual amendment, which is attached in the work session document, was proposed by the bill sponsor, Senator Orenshaw, and not by Water Strategies Group, which is a mistake in the work session document, to delete the majority of the bill and amend Section 4 of the bill to authorize the state engineer to grant an application for a temporary change of the place of diversion, manner of use, or place of use of water already appropriated for a period not to exceed 3 years, and provide that the state engineer must give notice of the application if The state engineer determines that the temporary change may not be in the public interest or may impair the water rights held by other persons, or the temporary change is for a period of more than 1 year and for a renewable energy generation project within the meaning of NRS 701.080.
All right, committee, do we have any questions? All right, Senator Hansen will get us started.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. Now, my understanding, and I think it was the bill sponsors too, that the 3-year extension was supposed to be limited to renewable energy generation projects. It wasn't supposed to be for everybody in the state who wanted to request a temporary. In other words, what I want to make sure we're doing is we keep the 1-year process in place for everything except renewable energy generation projects, what I think the intent was.
Chair Scheibel, with your permission, James Ornshaw, State Senate District 21. I believe, through you to Senator Hansen, I believe that's...
Please go direct.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Senator Hansen, my amendment that I'm proposing would limit that to the renewable energy projects as defined in 701.080. And Mr. Michael DeLee from Amargosa Valley had helped me present the bill. I believe he's on Zoom. If there's any questions that might be more technical that I might need some help with, but I believe, because he's got a lot of expertise in water law that
Actually,
I
I
don't
think the
have.
technicality, you just answered it. Really, what we're trying to do here is to give renewable energy generation projects the 3-year window. Everybody else still stays at 1 year.
That's correct, Senator Hansen.
Perfect.
Correct.
Well, I want to make sure that is what the amendment says, but that was the intent of it. So we need to have a conceptual amendment based on your testimony, if it's okay with the chair.
All right, Senator Gokachia.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and to Mr. Orangel, I appreciate his efforts on this, but unfortunately, I looked at the amendment and I checked with legal, and that isn't what it says. And so, sub 5 technically allows for 3 years for everyone, the way, at least legal's interpretation in mine is that's what it reads. The sub 5, a temporary change may be granted, and check with legal probably. So I don't know, that wasn't your intent, but that's what it says. I'm afraid.
Senator Gokachia, James Ornshaw, State Senate District 21. If there's further refinement that I need to get with the legal division, I'm happy to try to do that. But my intent is that this be applicable just to renewable energy projects.
Senator Orenshaw, if you're amenable, we could amend that right now and then do pass as amended, with the temporary change may be granted for any period not to exceed 3 years for renewable energy generation project within the meaning of NRS 701.080.
I'm amenable to that. Yes, thank you, Chair.
Just to follow up. If I
Senator Gokachia?
Yeah, and again, while we're tweaking it, I want to make sure, NRS 701.080, and we've got the state, I believe that's the one that refers that it has to be advertised.
James Ornshaw, Senate 21. With your indulgence, Chair, I will just verify that. 701.080.
I believe that's that addresses publication, it has to go to publication.
I'm not seeing that at 701.080, but maybe there's another statute that has that requirement, and unfortunately,
And I might be wrong, sir.
I might need to consult with legal and get back to you on
I
that.
didn't know if maybe the state engineer could.
Madam Chair, see the state engineer was shaking, nodding his head yes, so we got another expert in the
Mr.
audience.
Sullivan, would you like to come to the front?
I'm not.
Adam Sullivan, for the record, I'm not, I think we should be, I think we should just look it up and make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. 533, 360, and 65 is, does have to do with this filing change apps and protests, but off the top of my head, I can't clarify exactly what you're asking.
We're going to have legal answer this question.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, go ahead.
Erin Sturdivant, Legislative Council Bureau. Is the question, is a renewable energy generation project required to have notice, or the temporary change required to have notice?
And that's really my question, is that the intent of this, that if you are a renewable energy project and you're applying for more than 1 year, does in fact that application, that request have to be advertised?
Ernst Sturdivant, Legislative Council Bureau. The language proposed by Senator Orenshall in the conceptual amendment would require the state engineer to publish notice of a renewable energy generation project if it is longer than a year.
Okay. And whether it's the right statute or not, I just want to make sure we got that on the record as well, because that was my understanding, that was the intent.
That is
If it was
correct.
going to go beyond 1 year, if you were going to ask for the 3 years, you had to advertise it.
That's correct. Thank you, Senator Gokochia. Thank you to legal counsel.
Thank you.
Thank you to state engineer.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sturdivant, and thank you to Mr. Sullivan, who did not realize he'd be called up today. So that said, I think what I'm hearing is there's a lot of satisfaction with this as long as we add that additional amendment to Part 5. Okay, okay, one additional comment?
I will support the bill, and hopefully we can, but I guess my real question is, why are we just singling out renewable energy on the 3 years? But again, we can go down the line with that. I will support your bill. I appreciate your work on it, sir.
Senator Gokochia, thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee, for considering it.
All right, with that, I am going to entertain a motion to amend and do pass with the additional amendment discussed here today regarding number 5. Do I have a motion? Thank you. A motion from the Vice Chair, a second from Senator Hansen. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The motion carries unanimously, and I will assign that floor statement to Senator Orenshall, and don't go too far. It's now time for the work session on SB 269.
Senate Bill 269, sponsored by Senator Orenshall, was heard by this committee on March 28th. Senate Bill 269 prohibits a person from restraining a dog during any time in which a heat advisory has been issued for the area by the National Weather Service. The bill also eliminates certain exemptions to limitations on the restraint of a dog and the use of outdoor enclosures. At the hearing, an amendment was proposed by Clark and Washoe counties, and that is attached in the work session document. The amendment would also prohibit a person from restraining a dog during any time an extreme cold weather advisory has been issued by the National Weather Service, retain an exemption for a dog being processed into a shelter, and retain an exemption for a dog with a person having custody if the person is engaged in a temporary task or activity with the dog for not more than 1 hour and a heat or extreme cold weather advisory has not been issued for the area by the National Weather Service.
Thank you so much. All right, any questions? All right, Senator Gokochia.
Thank you, ma'am, and I really apologize for, as I look at the bill, and it talks about the extreme heat or cold, and yet we've deleted, the use of a dog used to lawfully hunt any species of wildlife. I mean, typically, if you're running hounds or whatever, there would probably be it's probably a cold weather. You run them in the wintertime. I'm also concerned about the fact that we deleted the section that if it's being cared for as part of a rescue operation, typically if you've got a rescue operation going on, you probably have some severe heat, cold, or something severe going on. I'm really concerned about what we've deleted out of the bill, and again, the 1 hour time frame. You might well have to tether an animal if you were, if in fact, under those scenarios. And, the bill, and as we worked the amendments in the original before we came back with this conceptual amendment, I was a lot more comfortable with, because we had exempted, looking at the bill, hunting dogs were out. If you were in a boarding facility, it was out. Temporarily being cared for as part of a rescue operation, those have all been deleted. They're no longer exempted, and that does give me heartburn.
James Orshall, Senate District 21. Senator Gokochia, I understand your concerns, but in my conversations with some different animal rights activists, including Dr. Karen Lane, who I believe is on Zoom out of Las Vegas, I'm not seeing her on the screen, but I know she was logged in earlier. There were concerns about some of these exemptions, about whether they were still needed. They've been on the books now for quite a while, and there certainly have been some examples she brought up during the initial hearing on the bill where felt that this exemption wasn't really in the best interest of the animal or the owner. I think that when you look at 574.100 and the prohibition on the tethering, the 12 feet length, I believe these are things that still wouldn't really need to be done in any of the exemptions that we're losing under this bill, whether it's the animal shelter or the dogs that are being used during hunting. There still is the exemption for an animal being processed into a shelter, even though the rescue operation exemption was taken out. So I still support that. I believe there's a little bit of an error in the amendment, though, that's in the work session document. The representatives from Clark and Washoe wanted to highlight what is not in there that should be in there. So with your permission, Chair, if I could turn it over to them. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich, representing Washoe County. And if I may, and I apologize for the confusion here, we did some additional work to the amendment in the time between the bill hearing and now, and we thought that that was what had been forwarded to the committee. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that that's the case. But if I may, Senator Goycochea, if I can go back to your questions, I think that the sections that you're indicating were in our amendment because they're in red strike through. That's actually language that was in the original bill, but it's included in the section that we're amending, and so we show it. There's an explanation of kind of how our language is coded, and so the red strike through was deleted language from the original bill. That isn't something. It's included there for continuity, but that isn't something that we're proposing in our amendment.
Please note what we have in front of us doesn't have any color coding.
So, yeah, I'm really struggling, Ms. Martinovich, and I appreciate that, if I may, Madam Chair. But again, is it your intent then to delete that any dog that's being used to hunt a species, lawfully hunt, be deleted from the tethering law?
To Senator Goycochea, James Orenshall, Senate District 21. Yes, as in the original bill, that section, that exemption from 574.100 would be removed, as well as the exemption regarding the rescue operations. There would be kept the small exemption about an animal being processed in an animal shelter as an exemption from that statute here, having to do with the size of the cage and the length of the chain. But hunting and the rescue operations, that is my intent, to remove those exemptions. And then add the language that Clark and Washoe proposed about extreme heat and extreme cold.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the amendment, and I'll wait until the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, I will entertain a motion with what was just provided to us now to amend and do pass. Thank you. We have a motion from the Vice Chair. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. We have a second from Senator Flores. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. No, I'm just, honestly, I'm a little shocked at what I thought was, I mean, you're going to literally make it illegal to be somebody that's being used lawfully to hunt a species of wildlife state during a hunting season for that species. And even more odd, we're going to penalize people who are on a rescue operation. That's a bona fide nonprofit organization formed for, I mean, those exemptions shouldn't be going away. Those should remain in law. And if they were, I'm almost a little confused about it. But yeah, just so you know, I'm a strong no on this now because of those two provisions. Just can't imagine punishing people on a rescue operation or people that are lawfully using hunting dogs, and they use them all the time in extremely cold weather. That's normally when you do your hunting, actually, especially for examples of mountain lion hunting. That's the time of year when those dogs are used extensively. So anyway, I'm a strong no on the bill. Sorry.
James Orenshall, Senate 21. Thank you, Chair. Certainly, I think I understand your concerns, Senator Hansen, but there would be no automatic punishment for either by removing the exemption from the hunting parties or for the rescue operations. Simply the exemption from the provisions of NRS 574.100 regarding the length of time that an animal can be chained up, the length of the chain. Currently, those don't apply to hunting parties or to rescue operations, and they would apply. So there wouldn't be any prohibition, there wouldn't necessarily be any prosecution. It would just that these provisions would need to be followed, the provisions that apply to pretty much everyone else and their dogs in the state. So certainly I don't think there necessarily would have to be any prosecutions as long as these provisions are followed that are currently in law for everybody else.
All right, thank you so much. Senator Flores.
Madam Chair, I'm going to vote to move it out of committee, and I'll meet with our sponsor afterwards, because I think I just misread the amendment, and I do echo some of the slight concerns that were raised by Senator Hansen, but I am going to vote to move it out of committee and reserve my right.
Thank you very much. Senator Goicoechea.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm sorry, just given where they are, I really hate to oppose the bill, but I'm just concerned about those exemptions. So with that, I'll be a no.
Okay. I think at this point, there's no more discussion, so I will say all in favor of moving this out of committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to moving out of committee?
I'm not opposed to moving it, but I don't.
Okay. Thank you so much. Please let it be noted that we do have all in favor with the exception of Senator Hansen of moving it out of committee. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to be that way, but I will oppose the bill on the floor.
Or I should say, okay, so all in favor,
Can I?
please.
I think I made the motion. I'd just like to clarify that my motion is to recommend an amend and do pass. So if that changes anybody's vote.
And it was the amendment that was just offered from Senator Orenshaw, was inclusive of this amend and do pass, and that is to get this out of committee and moving forward. Do we have a second to that? Second. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay, I better say nay.
Okay. That works. So we will go ahead and say that the motion carries. However, we did have no votes for the record from Senators Hansen and Goicoechea. And with that, I will assign the floor statement to Senator Orenshaw, who I believe will be having a few more discussions with committee members between now and final first House passage. Thank you very much, Senator Orenshaw. And we are now going to move to Senate Bill 311.
Senate Bill 311 is sponsored by Senator Hansen and others and was heard by this committee on April 4th. Senate Bill 311 requires the Board of Wildlife Commissioners to adopt regulations to allow a person to transfer his or her tag to hunt a big game mammal to any person who is under 18 years of age. The bill also requires a course of instruction offered by the Department of Wildlife and the responsibilities of hunters to be available to be taken online by any person regardless of age, and there were no amendments offered.
Thank you very much. All right, any discussion on Senate Bill 311? We've turned into a quieter group now. All right, I would love to see a motion to move 311 to do pass. Wonderful. So we have a motion, I believe it was from Vice Chair.
It was down there.
Oh, all right, thank you. We have a motion from Senator Flores, a second from Senator Goicoechea. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. The motion carries unanimously, and we will assign the floor statement, not surprisingly, to Senator Hansen. All right, so final order of business is public comment. As a reminder, public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person, but feel free to submit additional written comments to the secretary, and they will be added to the record. As we do not have a link up to Las Vegas, and I don't see anyone rushing to the table in Carson City, BPS, is there anyone on the phones for public comments?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. I would like the committee to note that we will not be having a meeting on Tuesday, the 18th. This meeting will be canceled for Natural Resources Committee on Tuesday, the 18th. However, we will be coming back at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, the 20th. And note that our committee photo will be taken that day, so be here a few minutes early. With that said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.